What's your favorite scary movie?
Hi, Pat. I want to play a game. It's called
Let's Talk About Saw X.
This is not retribution. It's a reawakening.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. Today we are talking about Saw X, aka Saw 10. Hoping for a miraculous cure, John Kramer travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. Aimed with a newfound purpose, Jigsaw uses his infamous traps to turn the tables on the con artist. So I remember when the first Saw film came out back in 2004. I was still in high school at the time, and obviously back then, no one knew what the Saw franchise was, or yet alone there was even going to be a franchise. So I just remember going to the theaters with some friends and being shocked at the gore, and then especially by the ending reveal of the movie. After that, it became almost a yearly tradition for a new Saw film to hit theaters just in time for Halloween. Now, I will let you guys know going into this, I am not the biggest fan of the Saw franchise. I'm pretty sure the last one that I saw in theaters was Saw 4. I don't believe I ever saw Saw 5. I did end up seeing Spiral, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. So I was kind of on the fence if I was even going to see Saw X, but I was hearing some good word of mouth, so I was like, you know what? It's spooky season, let's go ahead and give this thing a shot. So this movie takes place between Saw and Saw 2. John Kramer is back, and he's desperate to find a cure for his cancer, so he volunteers for this experimental treatment that turns out to be a scam. I thought it was interesting here that they tried to make Jigsaw almost the good guy in this film, or at least a lot more sympathetic than he has been in the other films leading up to this point. Saw X succeeds where a film like Don't Breathe 2 that came out a couple years ago, I think just failed miserably at trying to make that character sympathetic. They do a good job here because a lot of the characters, for the most part, that Jigsaw is going after are just really shitty human beings, so you're almost rooting for Jigsaw in all these cases, where some of the other Saw films, you felt bad for some of these people that he was going after because the traps were just so damn mean. And it probably helps that you get to spend a lot more time with John Kramer here than I think that you have in some of the other Saw films. Now granted, like I said, I don't think I ever saw 6, 7, some of those later sequels, so I don't know if you got to spend more time with him in flashbacks or anything like that. But you get to spend more time with him here, which I thought was really cool. And you also get to see more of his relationship with Amanda, which you guys have seen from the trailers. She's back in the film, so it was also nice to see her make a return to the franchise. And you see that Jigsaw, he really believes that he is actually doing good for the world. He really believes in what he's doing, which almost kind of makes it a little bit more scarier, where he believes that he's the good guy here. I feel like as the films started to go on in the franchise, from the ones that I saw, that it kind of became about more of how these victims were going to die in these brutal traps that Jigsaw had set out for them, and less about an actual storyline, really. So it was nice to have more of a focus on John Kramer and a little bit more of an emotional touch this time around with Saw X. Now, as far as the gore and the traps go, because I know a lot of people that are fans of this franchise, that might be kind of the leading thing, the driving force of why you guys want to go see this film. So is the gore and the traps, are they done well here? And I think that, there's certainly a good amount of gore, and the traps, I think, are sufficient enough. For me personally, there was a couple scenes where I definitely winced a couple times. But as far as the traps go, I would say that none of these here, at least for me personally, I don't think would be in some of the top traps of the franchise. I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but none of them I think had like a really immediate impact. There's one trap kind of towards the end of the film that I thought was pretty clever and messed up. I won't tell you guys what it is, obviously, if you haven't seen the film yet. But that might make it up there for me. But some of the other traps, I don't want to say they were run-of-the-mill, but they just weren't. They didn't stand out a lot for me. But I am curious, especially for people who have seen every single film in the franchise, I'm curious where you guys might rank the traps in this film compared to the rest of the traps in the franchise. So definitely let me know down below in the comments for that. Something else that I really appreciated about Saw X is that they basically give Jigsaw another villain to take on in this film, which ended up adding a completely different element compared to the rest of the entries and made it stand out from the rest of the entries in the Saw franchise, which I thought that was really cool, especially coming so late. You know, once you hit number 10 in a franchise, you're not really, you know, kind of expecting anything innovative or anything like that. So I thought that was a nice touch. Overall, I was actually pleasantly surprised by Saw X. I thought the franchise was able to return to its roots by putting the focus back on John Kramer this time around. And I felt like this film actually had a reason to exist, which oftentimes I feel like you can't really say that when you get to the 10th film, or in this case, it's more of a prequel where it takes place between Saw 1 and Saw 2. Usually when you do those kind of things, sometimes it's like, hey, I mean, we already know what's going to happen. Do we really need this prequel there? But I think they did a good job of justifying for this thing to exist, and especially for a 10th entry in a franchise. Oftentimes when you get to this point, you can't really expect anything too innovative out of a franchise because they've kind of done everything up to that point. So yeah, I was actually really surprised by Saw X. To me, it's probably one of my favorite entries that I have seen in the franchise. I'm curious, you know, especially again for everyone who has seen every single film in this franchise. And I'll have to, at some point, I'll have to check out the couple ones that I've missed just to kind of finish the franchise for me. But yeah, overall, as far as the score goes, I'm going to give this thing an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It's probably something that I'll actually end up picking up, which is going to mess with me because I am definitely a completist. So I'll probably end up, if they do like a box set for Saw, like I'll probably end up getting that, because even sometimes if some of the later entries in a film franchise suck, I always feel like I have to have them just to have the complete set. I'm definitely a completist when it comes to that stuff. So I'll check them out eventually. But yeah, definitely let me know if you guys have already seen the film. I want to know your thoughts. If you have any spoiler thoughts, just make sure that you put like a couple of spaces or whatever and put spoilers, so then that way people don't see that. But feel free, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the film. Where does this rank in the franchise, and where do the traps in this film rank in the franchise for you? So let me know down below in the comments. As always, guys, if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. Give this video a thumbs up. And as always, guys, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.